and welcome to the Animal Training Academy Making Ripples podcast show, the show where we share the stories of the ripple-making extraordinaires with behavior nerd superpowers who make up the Animal Training Academy membership. I'm your host and one of the happiness engineers at Animal Training Academy, Shelley Wood from Drop Your Jaws Dog Training in Cape Girardeau, Missouri in the United States. We're absolutely thrilled and grateful to have you here with us today. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single episode. This show is brought to you on behalf of the Animal Training Academy membership. So if you like the conversations in these episodes, then we want to invite you to continue them with like-minded people in the ATA membership, which you can find out more about at www.atamember.com. Within the membership, you can get access to twice monthly live web classes, the back catalog of previous web class replays, plus a huge library of videos and projects to help you problem solve your training challenges. And we're a sociable bunch with an exclusive private Facebook group and forums area. It's like a Netflix social media platform for animal behavior geeks. Today we are excited to welcome Michelle Mullins to the show. Michelle Mullins CDBC is the owner of Honest Dog LLC in Richmond, Virginia, USA, and serves as the IAABC Foundation president. Michelle has been training dogs for 20 years, and all of her work has the same objective: developing long, enriching relationships between pets and their people. In addition to her work in the pet product industry, she has worked with private clients for basic manners, puppy socialization, cooperative care training, and through aggression issues. Michelle works closely with other trainers, certified behavior consultants, and veterinary professionals. She is an IAABC certified dog behavior consultant, CDBC, holds certificates as a Karen Pryor Academy KPA certified training partner, CTP, a fear-free certified animal trainer, TAGteach Level 1 certified, and has completed the master's course, Aggression in Dogs. Currently, Michelle focuses on providing educational content, presentations, and mentorships for pet professional organizations, including the IAABC Foundation, Fear Free Pets, APDT, and as a guest speaker at Ohio State University. She contributes to and is available for conferences, panels, podcasts, and consultations, both on behavior cases and pet product development. She is dedicated to the IAABC Foundation mission to inspire, develop, and provide quality, evidence-based education, research, and charitable activities in animal training and behavior. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Shelley.
I'm really excited to have you. That's quite a bio. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there.
That just means I've been around a long time.
Well, I'm excited to learn about the time that you've been around. Could you start us out by sharing with us a little bit about your story, how you got involved with animals and some of the work you've done over the years and some of the work that you do today?
Oh, absolutely. I think my mom tells this story about when I was a little girl. I'm guessing it was probably mid to late 70s. And we went and saw one of those Benji movies. I don't know if everybody remembers. There are a series of movies with this little dog named Benji. He was a little terrier. And I came home and my mom was talking and I told her, I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be the trainer for Benji, not just a dog trainer. I was going to specifically train Benji. Because in the mind of that little girl, like Benji was still going to be around then because, I mean, these were hit movies, right? So I had a Benji poster on my wall. I was set. I trained my little dog to do like this little trick where like in the movie, Benji came up and snuggled his way into the little girl's arm. And I trained my dog like with a piece of food from the dinner table to do the same thing. And I just thought I was on my way. Of course, over the years that morphed into, I want to be an astronaut and I want to be those sort of things came and went. But I always had that love for working with dogs and working with other animals, cats, and we had some horses and that sort of thing. But I don't think I took it seriously as a career, partially because where I grew up was very rural and there weren't any dog trainers. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing you could be. And so as I kept saying I wanted to, work with animals, people would say, oh, you want to be a veterinarian, right? And for a while I thought, okay, I want to be maybe I want to be a veterinarian, until I realized exactly what that meant. And I was like, no, that is not what I want to be. So little girl dreams aside, I grew up, went to college. I ended up actually becoming a gymnastics coach. And I coached, I did competitive gymnastics as a kid, and then gymnastics as a kid. And then I became a coach, and I did that for many years. And I loved working with that. It was a bit of a different time. I think there was more telling you what you did wrong and less telling you what you did right back then. I kind of got disillusioned with it eventually, just because I felt like it was a lot of pressure on young kids. Not necessarily always in a bad way, but I really loved helping these kids to be successful and have fun. And I felt like after a while, there just wasn't enough fun involved for me. So long story, I wound my way back around to actually working for a pet product company that I didn't know that was here near Richmond, Virginia, where I live. And I just happened to be looking for one of their products online and noticed the manufacturing address was right down the road. And I thought, oh, well, they must have this in more colors. So I got in the car and I drove down there. And I walked in, and the lovely lady at the reception desk, I said, hey, I'm here. She goes, oh, are you here for the interviews? And I was like, no, I'm here. I'd like to buy one of these products, but I thought you might have more colors than they have like at the big box store. And she said, oh, I figured you were here for the interview. So she actually, even though they didn't sell retail out of this place at all, she sold me one right there. And she said, you should come back for the interviews. And I'm like, interviews for what? And so she talked me into filling out an application while I was there. And what hooked me was, you can bring your dog to work. And I thought, what? That's a thing? And I had always, like, with the dogs that I had, taken like obedience and manners classes and that sort of thing. So I was doing some of that already, but then I thought, man, there's a whole like office full of pet lovers who do this all day. And it was so exciting. So sure enough, I applied. They called me in for an interview, and I kind of switched. Little did I know I was switching careers that day, but I did. And I ended up working there. I started out in customer service and became friends with an amazing woman who turned out to be my mentor for training. I didn't know they even did this at this. So they manufactured pet products, and they had a training and behavior department. So these were people who were trainers, behavior consultants, and who brought their expertise to the table for product development, for marketing, photo shoots, trade shows, all kinds of different things. And that is not the department I started in, but it was quickly the department I gravitated toward. And so that's how I ended up there, and then eventually ended up running that department after a few years, and going to all kinds of trade shows and conferences, and being able to really flesh out my education on that side, as well as meeting that mentor there who kind of took me under her wing and let me help starting teaching classes with her and working with handling dogs with her and that sort of thing. And so I got that hands-on experience, as well as an amazing opportunity through work to actually get all the conference and CEUs I could ever wish for, to be honest. And that's kind of how I got into it.
That's an amazing story. I love your story about going to get was it a collar that you wanted in a different color?
It was. I don't want to I'm not advertising for anybody, but it was a gentle leader head collar. And this was like way back in the day. And then PetSmart carried them in black and maybe red if you were lucky. And I got online and discovered they came in other colors. And I was like, my baby must have the ice blue color. So that's kind of how that all started. And I actually still have that original color.
Oh, I love that you still have it. And I just love that story about going into the store looking for a collar in a different color and the woman mistakenly thinking you're there for the interview, but then being so taken with you that she encouraged you to apply. That's so cool. What an interesting way to land in that field. Yeah. And then what kind of conferences did you get to go to during your time with that company?
It was amazing. The first conference I ever went to was an APDT conference. And of course, we were there as a product company working the trade show floor. And I remember going to like my very first presentations at that conference, and I would go to a presentation because like we would work at the trade show, but then they would let us take turns going to sessions as well. So I would come back and I'd come up to my mentor and be like, oh my God, you can't believe what I just heard. And of course she did believe what I just heard because she had already heard it. But I remember like one of my very first presentations I went to was Jean Donaldson. And I was like, and then I just kept being more amazed as I went through the conference, all these amazing speakers. And our product company also worked very closely with a lot of speakers, a lot of vet behaviorists, a lot of the top trainers, because we would provide them sample products. Dr. R.K. Anderson, who was one of the co-inventors of the Gentle Eater, I got to work with him super closely. He actually, I remember in order to get the job in that department, there were several things that the interview process, not for the customer service role, but later when I was going to the training and behavior department, or at least I was hoping to, you had to do a presentation with a demo dog on how you would present and teach someone how to fit the Gentle Eater head collar. And so they had this lovely golden retriever there who I actually knew because it was my mentor's dog. And I walk in and there's like my mentor's there and the lady who owns the company is there, who's an amazing woman. And then Dr. R.K. Anderson is there. And I don't know that I've ever sweat so much in my life, to be completely honest. Because I just thought like having to do a presentation on how to fit the Gentle Eater in front of Dr. Anderson. I was just like, I got out of there and I was just like deer in the headlights.
I could see how that would be really nerve-wracking. That sounds like a really interesting department, the training and behavior department with the pet company, the pet product company. Can you give us a little bit more of a kind of behind-the-scenes peek into what all that involves? How, if it's
Absolutely.
Kind of... Okay, go for it.
It was the most amazing job I think I've ever had. We got to do a little bit of everything. We helped write instructions for a part of the training guide that came with some of the products, like not only how to fit it, but how to use it properly. We got to help design toys and determine sizes and enrichment products. We got to handle the dogs and cats on the photo shoots. We worked trade shows at conferences and got to meet, just amazing trainers and veterinary behaviorists and, hear their feedback and, be able to interface with them and worked with the sales team and the marketing team. I always thought it was hilarious because they'd be like, what colors do you think? And I'm like, that's not my area. I don't know. But it was just the most amazing job because not only the variety of things we got to touch, the different things in different ways, but just the fact that the company was really interested in having that input. So it wasn't just about, making a product that they thought was going to work. We would test it with dogs and see if dogs actually played with it appropriately, or did it last long enough? And then I learned so much about the other side too, because it was always funny because I was like, I could design the best dog toy ever, right? It would be totally durable and it would be this and that and all these things. And you'd go to the team and they'd say, yes, that would be great. And by the time you did all that and used all those materials, and that toy would cost the consumer like $60. And it was like, oh. Oh, now I see how that works.
What an interesting experience. And yeah, I was going to ask, did you get to test the toys out on dogs? So to see if they liked them, and that's awesome. I also can't let it go without mentioning Benji. I'm a huge Benji fan. I loved him as a little girl. It never occurred to me as a little girl to be his trainer when I grew up, though. I love that you had that thought. So from the time you were that young girl with Benji, or, with your love for Benji and wanting to do things with animals, and then you worked for the pet product company, take us to kind of your next steps and the different things that you're doing today, because you're involved in a wide variety of animal-related things still.
Yeah. I think that position, having that position and being with that company really opened the door to be able to meet so many people that were in different aspects of our industry. So everything from, working with veterinary behaviorists to meeting trainers of all kinds, trainers who were primarily working in shelters or with working dogs or, with pet dogs or whatever they were doing. And then that expanded some to cats, and then, working with all the different organizations that are out there. There are more now than there were then even. And meeting those people and just making those connections, which is something I really love and have really always strived to make connections, not just for myself, but for others, because I feel like if we're connecting and getting to know each other, then we're going to make an impact going forward, and we're going to, be able to help each other and support each other, and make training and behavior better for all the animals that we work with and all the people that we work with, because they are so important to that equation. I always say, I think it's crazy sometimes when I think you used to hear this more than you do now. People would say, oh, I want to work with animals because I love working with animals, and people not so much. And I'm like, they all come with people. So we've got to get on the people train. Very important. I just got to make those connections. And then from that, had different opportunities come up. The job was wonderful, but it was very exhausting sometimes, because I would go to almost every conference you could think of. I went to all the veterinary conferences, all the training conferences, some of the retail conferences. I was on the road so much. My husband said to me one time when I was asking my lovely hound dog to remove himself from my side of the bed and pillow, I was like, dude, come on, get off my pillow. And my husband was like, let's talk about that. Is that your pillow or is that his pillow? And my husband, who's very math and technical oriented, actually added up the days over the next 3 months that I slept on the pillow versus the hound dog sleeping on the pillow. And clearly it was Jinx's pillow. So that's when I kind of started going, wait, I need to figure out something maybe that's a little different for my future, and how I want that to look. I have an elderly mother. I have a amazing niece, that I love spending time with. She's like my little mini me. And a fantastic husband and some dogs of my own that I'd like to see on occasion as well. So I kind of started thinking about what does the future look like for me in that space. And I eventually ended up, I actually had a cardiac arrest at a trade show. And it was basically the result of a congenital heart defect. So it wasn't like total stress related. Not that I wasn't pretty stressed at that point, but I knew at that time I needed to come up with a different plan. And that's when I started kind of exploring what my options might be, what I might want that to look like. So I had always maintained that, even though I was working in this corporate role, that as a dog trainer, I needed to be working with dogs hands-on. So during all those years, I was also teaching classes when I could, taking clients occasionally, those sort of things, because I'm like, if you're a dog trainer, you should be practicing in some way. Like, I think that's really important to keep your hands in that. So I ended up leaving my corporate gig and starting my own business called Honest to Dog, and starting to take private clients. I'd always had more of an interest, or I developed, I guess, more of an interest in working with people with more serious behavior cases. Not that I don't love training other things, I absolutely do. But I really, I just have such empathy for people. No one signs up for the dog that has a major behavior issue, right? We all secretly want Lassie or Benji or, at least normal. And when you don't have that, the dedication that clients put into and the resources they put into helping those dogs is something that I just find amazing. And I want to be part of that and help them. So that's kind of where I went from there. And I've been doing that for several years. And then right now, as things have morphed for me and my husband and us, we're looking at semi-retirement soon. And I have my mother that I care for a lot. And as she is in her 80s now, she needs additional care. And that's something I want to be able to provide. I've kind of pulled back from private clients more over the last probably year and a half, and started doing more. I was already working with IAABC, and then we transitioned and I started working with the IAABC Foundation, which is a 501c3 that does the education and stuff. You mentioned it in the bio. Thank you. And so I'm a president of that organization. It's a volunteer position. And I work with them so that we can hopefully eventually provide education for a wide range of people in the animal training and behavior profession. And at a super high quality of education, but at lower cost, so it's more accessible to people. I was super fortunate that being in the corporate world, a lot of my education honestly was paid for. And that was not an advantage that most people have. And getting education in this field isn't easy, and it's not cheap. So that's something that we are really focused on, is bringing those costs down eventually, but keeping the quality really high, so that we can make it more accessible to everyone, from young trainers, young veterinary professionals who are interested in behavior, just all across the board, is kind of our goal. And that's what I'm focusing on right now. And that allows me both to do that work and still contribute. I also do, some things. I'm a guest speaker at Ohio State in the fall with one of their programs. And we do a great program for some of their students that's super fun, where they get a lot of hands-on training, or get to do that and handling. And then I also have done some presenting at some conferences myself, things of that nature. Done some courses I did a course for fear-free pets, just a variety of different things. And a lot of it's because I want people to have access to great education, just like I did. And so I'm hoping to be able to give back in that capacity now.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. And what an important thing to do, make training and behavior education more accessible to a wide variety of people. Because you're right, it's really, a lot of the courses are wonderful. There are wonderful courses out there, wonderful resources out there, but a lot of them are not feasible for a lot of people to participate in. So what a great thing to be involved in. For folks who, I would imagine that most people listening to the show do know, but just in case for a handful of folks maybe who don't know, could you tell us what the IAABC is, and that what you're talking about, there's kind of two branches, right? Is that a good way to say it? Branches?
That is a good way to say it. We often say we're sister organizations or brother organizations or whatever you want to call it. But we are, so legally, we are two separate organizations. The IAABC is the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants. and they are a membership organization and offer credentialing in a variety of animal behavior and dog training. They have a lot of amazing mentorship there. They are a fantastic support system for trainers starting out, for behavior consultants, people who want to get into more behavior consulting. And we are the 501c3. So they're a 501c6. They're also, we are a 501c3, the IAABC Foundation, and we provide all the educational programs, not only for their members, but for anyone. Anyone can come. And so we're not membership based. And we are working on taking all of that great education. We're also looking at getting into some research projects. We're working on a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. We have some great DEI listening programs that we're setting up that you can access off our website, those sort of things. And so we're kind of working side by side to provide great education. And then also there's that membership organization for people to have access to that. And they do some great member meetings and support groups and chats, and they have case studies. So there's a lot of great stuff going on in both organizations. But I'm with the foundation side.
Thank you for explaining that. And thank you again for everything that you've shared so far. I really appreciate learning about all of your journey, but I especially appreciate hearing you talking about focusing on taking care of yourself and focusing on taking care of your family and doing, it sounds like, a little bit of an inventory to assess what's important and how to shape your life in a way that works for you. So I'm really, I really loved hearing about that piece for sure. So thank you. I feel like I keep saying because I was like, I was going to ask her something else, but but it's escaping me now. So if I remember it, I'll ask later.
Absolutely. We'll just circle back around.
But for now, why don't we shift gears a little bit and hear about some of the training that you've done over the years? Would you be willing to talk to us a little bit now about a training-related challenge that you've worked through or are working through, and maybe some of the things that you learned from that experience?
Well, it's funny. When I was thinking about that, I was like thinking back throughout all the years and all the things that, and I'm like, oh, wait, it's not in my past. It's right now. So I currently have a young dog in my household. He's 8 months old. He is a golden retriever. He's fantastic. He has been a great addition to our house. And we lost our lovely, lovely hound mix, who was the logo for my company and just an amazing dog. We lost him to cancer about a year and a half ago. So the puppy is fairly still new to our household and doing great. And I'm always, when a new dog comes in, I'm always like, I wonder what this one's going to be into. Like, I never really have a set idea of what I might do with them. Like, sometimes I'm like, maybe I'll want to do rally, or maybe I'll do some nose work, or maybe I'll do, just whatever. I've always been interested in exploring like dock diving and those sort of things. I've never really had a dog that I thought that was really kind of their thing. I've had some great swimmers, but nobody who was really interested in anything outside of that. And so I got this puppy kind of with that in mind, that I'd like to explore that if that was something this puppy was open to. And I thought I was setting myself up pretty good, right? Like, I got a dog who's from a lovely line of dogs, many of which are into water sports. Not all of them, but many of them. And I introduced swimming early. And he is like, He's not only no about it. He's like, nope. There'll be no swimming. I'm like, and I thought I did all the things right. I introduced the life jacket, slowly, and acclimated him to it. We took him to the swim facility with our other dog that is quite a good swimmer. And we didn't even ask him to get in the first time we went. I'm like, I'm doing all the right things. And we are probably 5 or 6 months in on that. And I have a standing appointment at the swim place. We'll be there actually a couple days from now for our next appointment. And he has yet to swim. And I feel like I'm running out of ideas at this point. I'm trying not to push it, right? Because I'm like, I want swimming to be something. I mean, let's face it, I've given up the dock diving dream. We're not going to be a champion dog diver. It's fine. But at this point, I'd like you to swim so that way if you fall in the water when we're out and about, hiking with the other dogs, you don't drown. That'd be great. So that's my current challenge. And I'm really struggling with it because I feel like I'm sure we've all kind of done this to ourselves. I keep kind of going back and trying to figure out, well, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? Or what didn't I do, that I should have done? Or do I just need to give it up? Do I just need to, and then last week, I think it was like just a week ago, we were actually there. And so now we actually have a kind of a party. We've rented the place out for 30 minutes every couple weeks. And we go and we put the life jackets on and our one dog swims and he just fetches toys and plays. And I'm like, that's cool. You do you. We have a friend that her dog is a good swimmer and they all know each other and they play together on a regular basis. So she comes sometimes and we just play some music and, have a good time. A week or so ago, we were there and my other dog was fetching something out of the pool. And the puppy, as usual, was running alongside the pool watching and was apparently watching my other dog a little too closely and not where he put his feet. And he went plunk right into the deep end of the pool. And I was just like, because that's the last thing, right? That was not in my training plan. So I run over. I'm like, don't panic. Like he's okay. He's swimming for the side. He makes it to the side and I'm trying to lead him over where there's a ramp to get out, which we haven't practiced a lot because I haven't really managed to get him in yet. And he's just like, when he gets to the side, he puts his like legs up on the edge, but there's no purchase, right? He can't. And I'm just like, forget it. I just reached down and grabbed the handle on the jacket and just haul him out of there. So I've got, 65 pounds of wet golden retriever and not in the training plan. So that's what I'm really struggling with because I feel like I should be better at this. Like I'm really kind of beating myself up about it and I'm trying not to. But I've done I tried shaping him to get in the water and he'll get in, up to almost his belly and fetch something, but no farther. I've gotten in the water. I've tried several different things. And at this point I'm like, okay, it's time to like go out and check in with the masses and see if anybody's got anything else.
Oh, I don't have anything for you except for to say that I have a common challenge with my dog Castor, who's named after a river, by the way. But I have not worked on it as hard as it sounds like you have, but I have certainly worked on it with him. And he's not interested in, he'll get in the water, but he's not interested in being, his feet not touching the ground, which he's done exactly twice. And I swear his eyes were about to pop out of his head each time he did it. What really stood out to me from your story was you started it with was something you said when you started the story, and that really just struck me. You said that each time you get a puppy, you kind of have a general idea of maybe what you want to do with them, but then you also have it in your head, if that was something that this puppy was open to, and I loved hearing you tell your story. And then when you talked about dock diving, saying, I've let go of that. This puppy maybe doesn't appear to be open to that. And I think that's a beautiful thing to accept accept an individual for who they are. So that's kind of what stood out to me in your story.
I think that's important across the board, whether it's dogs or cats or horses or whatever you're working with, or people, right? Because, meeting those people where they're at and, seeing what their interests are, what they enjoy. I think, again, my lovely hound mix really kind of helped drive that home for me, because when we got him, we were like, oh, he's a hound. He's going to like nose work and, all this stuff. And we did try all those things. And I remember being in class for nose work. I love to go to classes, by the way. Like, that's my thing. I just love hanging out with dog people and training. So like we go to class and he's not really interested in sniffing the boxes, but he peed on every one of them. Which, as a dog trainer, is sometimes you just want to be like, please don't tell anyone I'm a dog trainer. Like those moments, right? And so I kept like trying to like, okay, maybe it's agility, or maybe he wants to, like I tried all these little things with him. And the one thing I didn't try was that I was like, well, he's not going to be into that. And I didn't try. And then I ended up, when I was doing Karen Pryor Academy, the dog that I was was my partner for that, developed cancer during the program. And so I had to retire her. The only other dog I had in the household at the time was this crazy hound that we had just adopted a few short months before that, who I had worked with a little bit, but again, mostly on nose work and tracking. And I was like, okay. So I called my instructor up, who was amazing. And she said, hey, bring him. And we'll do what we can, and, we'll work through it. And then we can always make some of it up next time. Like, it's an extenuating circumstance. We'll figure it out. And she really helped me work. And he showed up, and I started working him like literally a week before. He showed up, and that dog dealt me a solid, let me tell you. He was like, click treat, where have you been all my life? And I was like, what? You want me to shape you to get in a box? That's your thing? He turned into this amazing trick dog. And he finished KPA with me. It was amazing. And I'm like, you just never know. You just never know.
I love that. I think that it, like, kind of what it says to me is that, individuals come to us, like you said, of a variety of species, but they come to us with their own sort of foundation, personality, whatever you want to call it, their own sort of essence of what it is that makes them an individual. And we can teach them things and we can train them things, but it's a really beautiful thing when we teach them and train them by building on what they already have an affinity for, rather than maybe taking an idea of, I have to have you do this thing, which is doable perhaps in some cases, or in a lot of cases, maybe not all, but it's a really cool thing to recognize that individual for who they are. I love it.
I think that can make the difference. I've seen it in kids that I've worked with for gymnastics, and between learning something and being proficient at it and thriving.
That's a really great connection that you made back with the gymnastics, because what were you saying? I think you said something early on about maybe kind of getting, and I might not be using the right words, but maybe getting a little like disillusioned, or a little just not really in sync with the way that some of the kids' learning experiences were in the program, maybe?
Yeah. And nothing negative about any of the programs I've worked with. They were all really good programs, but, it was a lot of, back then, it was a lot of, well, you didn't do this, your legs weren't straight and your toes weren't pointed, and you didn't, all do all these list of things. and you'd walk away from your coach and you'd go to do again and you'd be like, I'm not sure what to do. So you basically just do the same thing again because you didn't know how to fix it all, right? And now there's definitely not only a switch, I think, in a lot of coaching, but I've been able to go back in with some of the programs and do some TAGteach there and introduce that as an element. And to me, that's really exciting for me to be able to do that, to be able to take that piece and bring kind of some more fun and joy back into it and see those kids really connect with that and be like, oh, right. And so that's been fun. And I definitely see more of a slant to that now. And I think it'll just come farther and farther. We've seen that in that industry. But then talking about thriving, I was just, my niece, she's a mini me. I was like, gymnastics, you got to at least try her, give her a shot and let her try it. And she did. It's not her thing. She's just she's okay. I mean, she learned a lot, but she's just not excited about it. And now on Tuesdays, I pick her up for dance class, which she is thriving at. So it's just it's all those elements have to be in play, regardless of what you're training.
Yeah. Very, very cool connection there, thinking about it with kids and different sports they might be involved in, and the same kind of thing with our dogs. All those elements have to be there for sure. So I love it. Thank you. Could you share with us now about a training situation, either that you are proud of and or that you have found reinforcing?
I don't know if this is exactly a training. It is a training situation, I guess. I think the thing I'm probably most proud of in my training is that I have learned to not only be the advocate for my dog, but to not just say I'm not doing that because my dog's uncomfortable, but to take that back and say, hey, how can I help him? How can I help him be more comfortable? How can I help her be more comfortable in this situation? And I think that's why I got into a lot of the cooperative care type training, because those are skills that most dogs need at some point in their life. All dogs probably, and cats and lots of other species. I primarily work with dogs. And so I've taken that and not only grown that with my own dogs, but taken a lot of that to my clients. And I have this one amazing client that I work with who has a very large dog, a 120-pound Great Dane, who has some very, very serious issues being handled in veterinary situation. And let's just face it, you don't get away with manhandling that dog in any way. You can't just pick it up and put it on the scale. You can't, those are not options. And we literally started with, how can we get this dog into a space where we could at least sedate it safely? Because we were at a point where he needs vet care. We can't wait any longer for vet care. So we worked on that first. And then we said, okay, once we've gotten the vet care, then we'll keep working on the other stuff. And it's been a really slow process. We've been together several years, but they never give up. They never give up on this dog, and they keep working, and it's been a really slow process. But the way they support this animal and the way we've become a team around supporting this animal. So there's me, there's obviously the clients. They're the first, and probably most important piece. And then you've got me. They brought in me. We've got a vet behaviorist that we're working with. We have their regular veterinarian. We found a veterinarian that was willing to work with us to be able to do the things that we can do safely. And then additionally, if we need to sedate for a procedure or something like that, we have a process for that in place. So that when we can't plan, if it's not the regular vet visit, they already have a plan in place that they can implement. And I think that's probably the one that it's the one that has brought me just the most joy, and the one that when I think I really helped somewhere, that's the one that kind of comes to mind.
That's a great story. And it actually reminds me of the thing that I forgot when you were talking earlier. And I was like, I keep saying because I want to say something. And that was something else that stood out to me in what you were saying in the beginning about when you work with animals, you have to be on the people train as well. And hearing you share that story, it was clear that you took great joy in helping the people as well as the animal in this case. And something else that stood out to me in that story was that you can't make a Great Dane. You can your choices are pretty limited there. So kudos to you for working with them and helping them through that. And they're still working on it, it sounds like.
They are. We have an appointment in April. We always say we, like we all talk in the royal we.
And it is a we. Whenever you're working with a family, it's always a we, isn't it? And that's something else that stood out to me from something that you said we're talking about in the very beginning too, was the kind of we that got you where you are today and that got you, walked you along your journey. It sounds like you have always had a really nice big network of people with you. Yes, you're nodding.
Oh my gosh. I think one of the reasons that I really enjoy working with the IAABC Foundation and that I've enjoyed working with all the different organizations throughout the years is making those connections, because those are the connections that help us further ourselves professionally, but also personally, right? I always feel like when I would travel, when I was with the corporate, it didn't matter where I was never alone. I would just get on social media or, pull out my phone contacts and say, hey, I'm in town, and there would be trainers to meet up with or, people to connect with and, show me your training facility, take me to your favorite restaurant, whatever it was. And I love that part so much, because sometimes I feel like depending on where we're at, we might feel somewhat isolated from other trainers or other trainers who are training in the way we do. I know definitely the place I originally grew up, like I said, at one point, there were no dog trainers that I know of there. And now there are a couple, and most of them don't train the way I train. And, it can be a little isolating for people in certain areas. And, we talk about, even when we're trying to help people on different forums and stuff like that, where, when we say, hey, that dog may need to see a veterinary behaviorist, that trainer may not have access to a veterinary behaviorist, depending on where they're at. Or they may not have the same resources available to them. And so we have to kind of become that for each other. And I think that's really essential to growing our profession. And I love it when that's happening. Like I'm always, wherever that's happening, that's where I want to be.
I think that's a great point about the veterinary behaviorist. A lot of times we'll say, oh, have you thought about seeing a veterinary behaviorist, or you need to see a veterinary behavior, or somebody might make that suggestion, but it's not accessible to everybody all the time, depending on their resources and where they are geographically and all that. So that's a really great point. Do you have ideas? So you were really, I'm sure it was a combination of work and maybe being in the right place at the right time for some of the things that landed you on your path to work for that pet product company and get to know lots of people and build your network. But do you have suggestions for people who maybe aren't able to get out and physically meet a whole bunch of different people in person, attend a bunch of different conferences and that sort of thing, on how people can work to figure out who they want to surround themselves with and then build that network? Absolutely.
I think one of the things that I have found really helpful is just, looking at the different organizations. There are many out there, and there are a lot of fantastic ones, which I think is exciting. I'm one of those people that I'm more about networking than anything. And I feel like organizations could be doing more networking together, because what's right for one person or, appeals to one person may not be the same thing that appeals to someone else. So, if you've chosen to train with Karen Pryor Academy, that's a great choice. If you've chosen a Jean Donaldson, or you've chosen to go Fear Free, or you've chosen, like, all of those are great choices, right? Like, of course, I would love you to come to IAABC Foundation. But then I'm like, I am also here with you guys, right? Because I don't want to ever limit what I'm learning. I want to see all the things that are going on to some degree. And so I think a lot of it's just like, if they have a newsletter, or if they have a blog, or if they have, those kind of like social media resources, check them out and see what you gravitate toward. That's how you can find your people. It's just like anything else. I do, on the side, one of the things I do for fun is, I go to Comic-Cons and I cosplay. And not everybody knows what that is, but, when I first started doing it, I was like, how do I find these people? Right. And I just kind of dug around, and I went to comic book stores, and I found out about events, and now I have like a group of people that, I call up and I say, hey, are we going? And dog training is kind of the same way. I actually put together a group here in Richmond a few years ago. It was kind of funny because it was something I wanted to do, and I'm not the most tech savvy person. And I do social media, but I'm also not like always the biggest fan of social media. So I was like, I want to start a group. I want, to network some trainers in my area. And so I did it the way I know best. Ken Ramirez was coming to a nearby town. And I called 7 or 8 of them up, and I said, hey, Ken Ramirez is coming. He's doing this lecture at this aquarium, and I think we should all get together and go. I rented a van. And some of them knew each other and some of them didn't, but I knew they all had local training businesses. And so I picked a bunch of them up in this van, and we headed down. It was a 2-hour drive. And then I was like, now I have them alone in a van. Little did they know I had ulterior motives. And by the time we got back from this little trip, we had started a local Richmond Facebook for positive reinforcement trainers. And so we started out with 6 or 7 people. And now we have about 70 people. And it's a small group. Richmond's not a huge place. And we've started adding fear-free dog walkers. We've got a groomer. We've got some places that board. We have a veterinary behaviorist. Woo! And we're just kind of bringing in people who can network with each other. So I love it. Like every time I see someone say, hey, I'm looking for this for my client or that for my client, because one of the things that was said in that van last night, or that night, was someone said, but wait a minute, aren't we each other's competition? And I was like, well, in my opinion, as long as there are trainers out there using primarily aversive methods to train dogs, and we run all of them out of business, then we are not each other's competition. Once we do that, then we'll be each other's competition. So we got a ways to go. And that's just my personal opinion. But that was one of the things that the conversations that happened that night in the van. And I think they kind of went, oh, yeah. I was like, because there's a lot of business to go around, right? So sometimes if you feel like you can't find it, make it.
That's
because
great.
Someone else is probably looking for it.
That's wonderful. And you said 70 people, and then you were like, Richmond's a small place. It's a small group. I'm like, 70 people sounds huge to me.
Shelley, I literally feel like I'm the last person on this planet who should be admin of any sort of social media group, because I'm like, I will just, like you said before we recorded, if you say anything you'd rather, like back up and edit out later, I'm like, that's a story from my life. But yeah, so far I haven't run anybody off.
That's wonderful. What a great resource for folks. You said something when you were talking just then about all the different organizations. You mentioned the IAABC Foundation again, and you said, of course, we'd love to have you. Are there opportunities with the foundation for people to get involved and volunteer and do things with them?
I'm so glad you asked. So a lot of people don't realize that the IAABC Foundation is a 501c3 charity organization. We have an amazing staff, but we do get a ton of support from our volunteers. Our entire board is volunteer. A lot of our positions are run by volunteers, and that support our staff in doing the work. We're fairly young. So we've only been around for, I think we were first got our paperwork rolling and all that in 2020. Of course, with all the pandemic stuff, that kind of put a little bit of a damper on things. We ended up kind of switching gears and doing the Lemonade conferences that we did with Finzi Dog Sport Academy to kind of make that work. But now we have our first conference coming up in May. In Houston, Texas, and May 4th through the 7th. And it's going to be both live in person and have a virtual component that's live streamed. But we have a lot of volunteer opportunities. People can get involved there's so many programs that we have going on. We have stuff going on with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have stuff going on with just straight up education in a lot of variety of there. We're trying to add more variety with that as we go. We are supporting different events throughout the year. So we have a Pounce Cat Conference online. So lots of different events that we're trying to incorporate with that. And we're always looking for great volunteers. We have some great educational offerings as well, if people are looking for that. We just launched our dog trainer professional program, which is a 20-week course. If people are looking to get into dog training, it's really designed for people who are really just kind of starting out and looking to find a solid. It's got great, it's online, but it does have several projects that you have to do as well. So you get some hands-on stuff that you have to turn in by video, that sort of thing. And we have some great presenters within that course. So it's not just one person presenting. It's a lot of amazing. We've got Dr. Aaron Jones. I do a hands-on component. Lauren Novak does Renee Hall, and just a bunch of amazing people doing this course. So, and then we have our Principles in Practice, which was kind of our flagship course for behavior consultants. So we have so much going on. We also have our award-winning peer-reviewed journal, the IAABC Journal, which you can sign up for, and it's free for everybody. So anybody can get access to that. And we do lots of great articles that come out in that are, a lot of them are based on research that's coming out or work that's being done, like cutting edge kind of stuff. So check that out as well.
Hey, and if somebody wanted to volunteer or look into volunteer opportunities or look into education opportunities, where would they go to do that?
They would go to IAABCFoundation.org is our website. And I believe they could contact info@IAABCFoundation.org because that's not long enough. And inquire about volunteer opportunities through there.
Great. Thank you. And if somebody wanted to find out more about what you are doing or wanted to ask you a question or try to work with you or anything like that, where would they go to find more about you?
Absolutely.
Or to get in touch?
A couple options. They can always email me at m.mullins@IAABCFoundation.org. That's my foundation email. And then my personal email, they can email me at honest2dogrva@gmail.com.
Thank you. And we'll link to that in the show notes as well. And I've also been meaning to say, since I read your bio, that I absolutely love your business name, Honest to Dog. That's a great name.
Thank you. That one was, when I was trying to think of a name, I had some ideas and nothing was just sticking. And so I asked about 15 or 20 people that had known me both in dog training, but also from other areas of my life, just friends and people I was close to each write down 10 or 15 words that they thought just made them think of me and my approach to training and my approach to dogs, or just me in general. And I got back a lot of, I have some amazing friends, by the way. They all weren't really nice things, mostly. But the interesting thing was when we compiled it all and looked at it, the one thing literally everyone had written down was the word honest. And I was like, that's got to be it. Absolutely has to be it. So I called it Honest to Dog, which is obviously a little take on, a religious phrase. And it's hilarious because I'm not particularly an overly religious person, but my very first client that I went to meet, it was this lovely lady, and she scheduled the appointment and everything. And I show up, and it's at this great house in downtown Richmond. It's got all this character. It's one of the older homes in Richmond. And I walk up, and I'm wearing my Honest to Dog t-shirt, and I'm just all shiny and bright and new. And I knock on the door, and a gentleman opens the door, and he's wearing a minister's collar. And I was like, "Hi, I'm Michelle with Honest to Dog." And I literally stood there thinking, is someone pranking me? But they were not pranking me. So
that's great. I spend most of my life going, is someone pranking me? I know that feeling. Michelle, thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today from myself, on behalf of ATA, on behalf of everybody listening today. Thank you for spending this time with us and sharing all that you shared with us today.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for this. This has been great. I'm learning so much. I'm being so inspired by the group and just the different posts that they're doing. It's very inspiring for me. I was looking for something kind of new and fun, and I think I've absolutely found it here. And not only that, it's like got great education and stuff as well. So.
Well, we are thrilled to have you as part of the membership and really excited to learn more about you today. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you, Shelley.
We do, of course, appreciate all of you tuning in as well. And if you have enjoyed this episode and are interested in carrying on the conversation about working with the animals in our lives in the most positive, most fun, and most choice-rich ways, then as mentioned at the start of this episode, the Animal Training Academy community is waiting for you. Head on over to www.atamember.com and click on the membership button in the main menu to learn more about what members are describing as the Netflix social media platform for behavior geeks. That's it for this episode, though. Thank you so much for listening. You'll hear from us again soon.